trenches. Ask a nigga what he benching. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Whole hard in the trenches. Ask a nigga what he benches. Triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Don't forget I got memories, dead stain the whole room if I let them bleed. Shit was dark, I let this little light match.
Man, before I even get into it, because the most important thing is actually checking in with the co-host. Dre, how was your weekend before I even get started? Everything was good.
I'm about to say what's going on, Mr. Groomsman. You the groomsman of the year, man.
Right, this is incredible, man. This is incredible. But yeah, it's like I said, you need go ahead, because yesterday was incredible.
Look, all I gotta say is, man, I had a great Saturday, and literally the only reason I had a great Saturday was because it was a Saturday I had to do nothing. I had nothing to do but what I wanted to do. So that was a great Saturday. So I just laid around, drank liquor and beer all day, and watched college football. That was my ideal Saturday. I don't get those often.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nowadays I would imagine. Well, I don't know, cause hold on. Actually, before we even get started, cause we have Carita and Candi checking in, so we're gonna go ahead and let them in right quick. All right, should be good right here. Oh, there they go. What's going on, Carita? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I can't complain. We was just recapping the weekend. What's going on, Candi? How are you?
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good. Hey, Candi.
Hey,
hello, everyone.
Ladies, I'm not sure if y'all know Dre, but this is my co-host Dre. We're together with the Trap Lab. I guess I'll get the intro out the way before we continue on with our weekend festivities, holiday festivities. For those who don't know, I actually wouldn't even want to kick it off the regular season any other way. This episode of Trap Dive Podcast, we have Candi Waller and Carita Parks joining us. Candi is the founder and CEO of CWall Sports and Entertainment, PG County native and HBCU graduate. She's covered a variety of local, national, and international sporting events too. Carita, another business owner, is the CEO of Parks Public Relations LLC and the founder of Double Take Sports. Carita, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're currently a freelance journalist. But obviously, I remember you from USA Today's Redskins Wire for that period. And you Dakota, relax. You're messing up my intro. You've covered a variety of local and national sporting events too, from Duval to the DMV.
Yes,
absolutely. Ladies, thank you all for joining us tonight. How are you all doing today?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Absolutely. So we were just talking about our weekend. Dre, he said this opportunity doesn't come by that much for him. He had the time where he can actually sit down and just enjoy the football games that came on this weekend. So what you said, you got yourself a couple drinks and just relax, man. How was y'all weekend?
It was good. Yeah.
Look, the weather was the bomb in the DMV this
really
weekend.
Did y'all go to any cookouts? Any grilling? What's up?
No, I didn't do any grilling.
I did not go to any cookouts. I did grill. Being a girl from the South, so I hopped on the grill and I just made some burgers. I kept it simple, but that was the highlight of my weekend. But I got to relax, which I got a lot done and I got to relax. So it felt good to have that time to myself. So I had a good weekend.
Now what's
low key, but good.
Yeah. What's the best thing, or not the best thing, the for your eyes, like what's the biggest thing or most impressive thing that you've been able to grill? And it was like, you know what? I didn't know I had this in me.
I mean,
I asked that because recently somebody cooked ribs and I've never even gotten to the rib part yet. So I was like, I've been slacking as long as I've been grilling. So that's why I was like, I know there's some feats that people never really tried until they tried it.
I mean, I put some steaks on the grill, and I know steaks can like cook really fast. So I was impressed with being able to cook some steaks on the grill because I typically do like in the oven or the air fryer, but being able to put them on the grill, I was impressed with myself. I do want to get to the point where I can cook some ribs on the grill. I haven't even tried, but I need to try that.
So they say put it in. Dre, have you ever cooked ribs before on the grill?
Nah, I got to get a real grill first, man. I don't have one.
that would be important.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, no, I got one of those little regular everyday grills, so I don't even want to put ribs on there. I got to get me one of those married men grills. You know them grills married men have, with the big grills they got to set up. That's when they put the ribs on. Yeah, when I get a wife and I get married, that's when I get me a real grill and I grill some ribs.
Okay. Yeah. So they say put that thing in some foil. Well, that's what I heard. Put it in some foil and then go from there. But I need to know the details.
I ain't got time for that.
Yeah. Hey, grilling takes patience, man. It is what it is. I get it. I get it. Okay. All right. Well, I'm recovering from a. Well, I mean, it was a good thing too. I'm recovering from a wedding. One of my friends got married yesterday. And you know, I was part of the groomsmen, and from start to finish, you know, you're drinking. It's just simple as that. Some people whoever indulges in alcohol, you know, those are the things. So luckily, I wasn't the best man. Dre knows I'm in 5 weddings, like in the span of a year. I'm in 5 weddings. And never. I don't ever want this to happen ever again in life. I don't want it to happen ever again in life. But this one, I wasn't the best man. I didn't have to talk. I didn't have to do anything except for show up. So the drinking I did. So it was a good ceremony. So my weekend, that capped off everything for me. But yeah, I loved it. Okay.
I guess COVID has some people committed. I like it.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Carita, I wanted to start with you. Just some more questions just about who you are per se. But obviously, like I said, from Duval, Florida, Duval County, I believe, to DC. What was the decision to bring you from Florida to DC? Was it more so like the journalist side of you to come over here and start working in DC?
It's funny. It was actually my PR background, because that's where my background started. And then I transitioned into sports journalism. So I was working with an agency where they had a variety of clients back in Florida, such as Visit Florida, Environmental Protection Agency, all kinds of different companies, but they actually started working on federal contracts. And I said, you know what, it's funny, when she opened the office up here, 2 years prior to that, I was like, I'm moving to DC. 2 years later, I moved to DC. So it was my PR, but coming here just opened up so much opportunity for me with my own company. I actually started my own agency, Parks PR. And from there, I started working with different clients here in DC and New York, because it was in such close proximity. And then that opened the door for me to get into sports journalism and covered some national events. And then being in DC, where there's sports teams, just the sports teams is crazy. The sports industry is crazy here. I've been able to cover local teams. So it's the perfect place to be for both sides of what I do.
Absolutely. And Candi, you are the HBCU grad, Pledge Delta. And I'm familiar with all these things minus the pledging. That hasn't been my lane yet. I went to Morgan State and graduated from there. What made you choose to go to a HBCU when you were starting out in your college search and things like that?
I think for me, as you mentioned earlier, I am a Prince George's County native. And I just wanted to go to a school that everyone looked like me, where the majority of the students looked like me, were very similar backgrounds and just had similar ambitions as myself. And so I stepped on the campus. I went to a lot of, like college fairs and tours and everything. My parents were big on, we're going to send you on this tour. We're going to send you there. We're going to drive all the way out here and do this and do that. But honestly, when I stepped on the foot of the campus of Hampton University, when I stepped foot on Hampton's campus, I was like, this is gorgeous. And I was like, this is just the right size for me, because I really wasn't into big schools. I remember when I toured UNC Chapel Hill and Duke, I was overwhelmed. I was just like, this is what, where do I go? It was just too much. As soon as I got there, it was just too big. So Hampton was HBCU. It was far enough away from home that I could be away from home, but close enough if my parents needed to get That's what I was like. If you gotta
Absolutely.
come get me, you can come and get me. And then I just fell in love with the whole entire campus. So I wanted to be around like-minded folks that looked exactly like me. And so that's what I did.
So actually, so I'm sorry, Carita, did you go to HBCU too? I should have asked that part.
I did not go to
Okay.
an HBCU. The closest HBCU to me at the time was FAMU, but I ended up actually staying in Jacksonville for school. We had the University of North Florida, which is a part of like the whole University of South Florida university system. So.
Okay. So Candi, one thing before we transition to watching football, I asked Felix this, Felix Tramiel. I asked him the same thing about the HBCUs, just the best experiences there, and I'll ask the same thing for you. Your best experiences, whether it's your own or just an actual school that you visited and you experienced something like that, like you know about G-Ho, you know about obviously Hampton has good homecomings too. UMES when they're the only homecoming. Because they have a football team, so they go up there and everybody's up at UMES and Eastern Shore for X amount of days and things like that. What was your best experiences, or one of your best experiences you can share at HBCU?
I think you probably mentioned it. It's the homecomings, because the homecomings are still part of the experience, right? Like, even I enjoy homecomings just as much as I did when I was a student. I probably enjoy it more now, honestly, but it's the homecoming experience, and it's just the whole camaraderie of the HBCU network. Because, like, for example, at Audi Field, there'll be the Hampton Howard game coming up in a few weeks, and even though we do the whole real HU this and real HU that, it's really just a dope to be, with others in the HBCU community, and we have a ball. Of course, all the bands, I've definitely attended a few of the Battle of the Band events. So homecomings definitely at the top of the list. Of course, all the parties and whatnot, but for certain, HBCU homecoming is where it's at.
Absolutely. I first got introduced to a HBCU when my god brother, I call him my brother, I think he was a freshman at Howard, and when he was a freshman at Howard, he's 4 years older than me, so I was like probably a freshman at high school, and he took me to the step show at Stadium Armory, and when I seen that environment, the stands was packed at Stadium Armory, I'm like, what is going on? Like, and I just got experience baptized into all the sororities, the fraternities, everything, and I was like, all right, I'll just put it this way, because I know I was considering like University of Miami at that time too. So I was like, but I never forgot that moment and the trips that I took to HBCUs, and I was like, you know what, I can't get into Miami anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and fully invest into HBCUs and stuff like that. So I'm glad I took that route, 100%. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and talk some Washington football. It's week 1. The roster, as far as we know, is set. And before we get into season predictions, I want to get you all's overall thoughts on the team, and where you all feel like is the ceiling with this team, and what is the floor. And if you can, because we're going to save the record predictions for the later, probably towards the tail end. Just try to keep a record out of it. But yes, just see what your ceiling is and what is the floor. Carita, I'll go ahead and start with you. What is your opinion, and where are you at with the team?
I think the team is in a really good place. I know we'll talk about this later. I do have some concerns, but I believe that they'll be able to build off the season that they had last year. I mean, it was Coach Rivera's first year. They had a quarterback carousel, so there was still a lot of uncertainty. Coach Rivera was dealing with cancer, and with all of those obstacles, they were still able to come out on top of the NFC East. This year, I believe we're going to see them build upon that and do much better. They have more stability at the quarterback position. Running back Antonio Gibson, he's in his second year, so I think we're also going to see him take another step forward. They have a deep, wide receiver group, so I see them doing very well. And then the defense, I mean, I don't even have to say much about that. It was preseason. Me and Candi were talking about this on our clubhouse. They were playing like it was a regular season. So we were like, we don't even need to see the defense no more. Sit them down. Right. So I feel pretty confident about them. So I think the team has a fairly high ceiling. As far as the floor, I think it's just going to be if they shoot themselves in their own foot, to be honest. If they can steer away from mistakes, I don't see why this team can't, like I said, take another step this year.
Candi, where you at with it?
I totally agree with Carita. I think that there have been improvements in the roster from last year to this year for certain. Like Carita mentioned, I know we're gonna get to this, but I have concerns as well. So it's not like I'm not overly optimistic. You know, I mean, I had to get some feeling through preseason, right? Before preseason, I was just like, oh, this is it. This is what's up. But during preseason, I was like, okay, I don't know just how good some of these position groups are. But then, like, to Carita's point, you have the defensive line that is strong. Mm-hmm. That is just, that's the nucleus of the team. Yeah. That is the strength of the team, period. Like, straight up, it is. So some of what we saw last year is where the offense may have lacked, the defense made up for it. So I'm looking forward to this defensive line to start right where they left off last year. The ceiling is very high for that position group for certain.
Now we tease concerns. You know, we have our concerns about this team. So let's go ahead and get right into it. If there was one thing that may keep Ron Rivera up at night, what an area of the team, whether it's a position or a unit, what is that thing that's going to keep Ron up at night throughout the season? Either one of y'all can take the first stab at it.
Well, Candi probably knows what I'm going to say, but I'm gonna go with a whole unit at this very moment. I'm going to say the offense potentially. In preseason, that first team offense, there were two problems. They either didn't move the ball down the field, or they got in the red zone and did not score. Yeah, could not execute in the red zone. So that, for me, if it continues in the regular season, that's definitely going to keep Ron Rivera up at night, because the defense can only do so much. We can only ask so much from them, and I believe they will deliver, but your offense has to be efficient too, which was an issue last year. So we need to see some improvement in that area overall, especially at that quarterback position.
For certain, I won't take Carita's, because Carita is absolutely correct. And I don't know, it goes back to like last year, it was like, is it the quarterback or is it Scott Turner? Is it the offensive coordinator? Like, what is this? What is it?
Good question.
And so it has to continue to be that question, because there was definitely a lack of execution in the red zone. Which is a problem, and it has been a consistent problem. And from a defensive perspective, I'm also concerned about the linebackers. The linebacker position group is less than impressive for me, and the coverage midfield, they're gonna get hurt. They're gonna get tore down.
It's something like if you meet the right quarterback, they're gonna run right through you, dice them up.
They're gonna run right through them every time. And then the way that things are now in the league with just officiating, you hit somebody too hard. Hey, Dakota, is that the name of the dog?
That's Dakota. I'm about to smack on her butt.
You hit a player too hard, and that's a penalty. Mm-hmm. And if you're already weak in that position group, offenses can tear you apart just because they know that that's your weak link. So I'm really concerned about, as Carita mentioned, the offense for certain, and then the linebacker position group for me. Oh, and can you mention kicker? Can we mention?
Okay, that was where I was to go. I was go there too, Candi. I was like, I mean, I know you said one for each of us, but I don't even think we can overlook that potential issue.
I think all four of us can agree. Like, we can say that's the second, but also most important thing that we need to focus on is that goddamn kicker spot. That kicker needs to. Yes.
Can you imagine a game where it is all it takes is an extra point, or
Dre? What did I say a week or two ago? I said it's going to come down to the point where Dustin Hopkins is going to be required to make a. You're not even going to think about it. He's going to have a field goal. He's going to miss it. Whether it's a field goal or extra point, and then all of a sudden the game starts going on. It starts going on. It starts going on. And all of a sudden those points start to add up. And it's like, if he only made that field goal, or if he only made that extra point, we wouldn't even be in this position where we're trailing in the first place. And it's going to come back to haunt Ron Rivera, I think, because he's sticking by this man for whatever reason. He's sticking by this man for whatever reason. He's sticking by this man for whatever reason. And look, if this the hill that he want to die on when it comes to special teams, be my guest. But I did want to transition right quick though, Candi, because you said something really good. And Dre, I want to get your opinion on this. Candi, you mentioned Scott Turner. AJ, who's another co-host, he's not here today, but AJ and myself, we had questions about Scott Turner in the offseason. And we also had questions about Scott Turner in the regular season of last year, in that he wasn't really, when he came into the league or with Washington, he really wanted to showcase his two-back system in the shotgun and do things that he thought was just going to work with the quarterback that he had. And he stuck to it, and it didn't work out. It looked ugly. And at the end of the season, you're one of the bottom third teams in the NFL on offense. I'm not so sure about Scott Turner, and I think there's plenty of people who can verify that this is probably a big year for him. Dre, what's going on in your head with Scott Turner? Where are you at with him? Do you want to, I mean, obviously we all want to see more, but like, is this that year where you're like, okay, you got the pieces that you want. Let's see if it's you, or let's see if we're still just missing pieces.
Yeah, no, I mean, he definitely has a lot to prove this year. Last year was just such a hard year to judge. I mean, the quarterbacks you had to start off the year, like I said, Dwayne Haskins, he one of the lowest rated QBs in the whole NFL. I mean, he was bottom 4. Then Alex Smith came in. He could only do so much on one leg. And then when his leg weakened to the point where he couldn't do anything, it was nothing you could do in the offense. I mean, he was a complete liability at one point. That's why, to me, it was interesting with Scott Turner. Like I said, because we don't know too much about what he can do yet. But for me, the most impressive thing I saw for him last year was what he got out of a journeyman who actually had 2 working legs in Heineke. I mean, Heineke comes in right off the street, and the offense all of a sudden starts moving the football. You know, I mean, he did it for a game and a quarter or so, but that was interesting. But again, you know, you need a bigger sample size. I mean, I thought Scott had a couple of good moments last year outside of that, like the Cowboys game. I thought that was the best game he called all year, that Thanksgiving game. He showed a variety of things. But like I said, I think he was just showing a couple of, I'm not going to put everything on the quarterback, but I think he had some growing pains early on. I mean, he's still kind of new at this, and he has to learn situational play calling and, you know, the best spots to put certain players in. And to be frank, I mean, Ron Rivera and Scott Turner, they both will admit that they didn't know what everyone could do last year. They did a whole bunch of assuming when it came to a lot of the roster last year. So this year is a big year for all of the coaching staff involved, including, I mean, especially Scott and Ron, because now you do know about the roster. So it's kind of no excuse to come out there and still be going through growing pains, because you know most of these guys now.
Candi, Carita, how y'all feel about that?
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, as you were talking, Dre, I was thinking about some conversations I was having last year, and it was exactly to your point about the pieces, right? It was like, honestly, the team wasn't that good. You know, we talk about quarterbacks. The team went through 4 quarterbacks last year, and they weren't all that good at all. So, and they talked about, you know, certain players, even at the wide receiver group, you know, hey, it on another team, where is Cam Sims? You know, last year, Cam Sims was like wide receiver 2 on the Washington football team. They were like, on another team, Cam Sims may not be even on the practice squad, but this is what you have to deal with. And I was just like, dang, you know, because I like Cam Sims. But I mean, but still, it was still those different perspectives that, you know, going back to your point of everybody has a lot to prove. I also think another thing that hasn't been talked about a lot is Washington still made the playoffs on a very mediocre record. And I think it's because as a division, the division wasn't good. And also some of the other teams across the division had key injuries that took them out of contention. And so Washington made it work for them. with the bare minimum. I don't know if that type of luck is going to happen this year for the Washington football team.
I agree. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, Dak is coming back. That man is saying he's been ready. He's looking forward to this opener this Thursday, and it'll be interesting. That's the biggest piece, I guess, out of everybody that's been missing is Dak and understanding what Dallas's offense has over there in terms of talent. So, you're not wrong at all, Candi, at all. Okay. Let's get into some season predictions. And to make this fun, I did start a poll just to see. Now, I didn't expect many people to vote on the day of, but just to see where people's heads is at, we can kind of. So I'll shoot you all the questions or the predictions. And it's simple. It's an over, under. So what we're gonna do is I'll say it, and then when it's your turn, y'all gonna guess what the people had, and then you'll give your opinion of what is gonna happen. So we'll go ahead and start off with Terry Mclaurin. Terry Mclaurin, and by the way, just to clarify, we will do overall team predictions, offense, defense, and then individual players. So we're going to go ahead and start with Terry Mclaurin. He had 1,100 yards last year. Will he go over or under 1,200 yards in 2021? So what do you all think the people have for the over or the under on Terry Mclaurin? And then what is your opinion?
I think the people probably said over. My opinion is under, but I'll tell you why. I say under because there's more options at wide receiver. Last year, it was mainly all Terry Mclaurin. This year, you have Diane Brown. If Curtis Samuel comes in healthy, you have him, you have Adam Humphries. I expect them to use a wide variety of wide receivers. So I don't think it's all going to be on Terry Mclaurin. And so that's why I'm going under.
Okay.
I agree with Carita. Carita's exactly right. There's more options at wide receiver. Hopefully, with more options, hopefully Terry is healthy all season. I think we found out after the season that he was dealing with a lingering injury. And I think in some games we even saw that. I think a couple of games too, he was inactive. But with more options, they got to spread the ball around a bit more. So although I think he's going to have an amazing season, I think it's going to be
definitely
terrific.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be under.
He's still wide receiver number one.
Absolutely.
Where you at, Dre? What's your prediction?
I agree with the ladies. I think it's under simply for the fact that, like I said, you have so many different options. And plus, I think you'll see Antonio Gibson in a more expanded role that he was in last year. Like, we didn't get to see his full potential last year as a receiving back that was kind of loaded coming out of college. So I think he'll take up a lot of targets. And of course, you still got J.D. McKissick there. And then you have a fresh, whole new receiving group. So it's not going to be a knock on Terry if he doesn't get over 1,200 yards. I just think it's just a lot of players to spread the rock around to this year.
Which is better for him, actually. Maybe not for the numbers, but.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, because I see the poll, obviously I'm not going to say what the people had. But I will just bring an alternative perspective so we all won't be on the same side. So the people had over. 87% went over.
Wow.
So 87% went over on this one. And here's why I will say that they can be right on this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you believe that Terry Mclaurin is a top 12 receiver in the NFL, not only does the weapons that they added benefit Terry, they will make his job easier because it will be less people to cover Terry on a given play. I feel like if that's the case when you have Diami, Logan Thomas, who is continuing to develop as a tight end, I would say that much. You know how I feel about Logan, Dre. I'm not entirely there yet on him, but you know what I'm saying? He's producing. So a guy like him, and obviously you have Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, all these guys who are versatile in their running back / receiving skills. They can bring different variables to an offense. Terry Mclaurin is going to have more one-on-one matchups where he can dominate the defender in front of him. And I feel like if that's the case and you have a quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick who loves to throw the football downfield and be aggressive, more opportunities I wouldn't say more. I would say better opportunities downfield for Terry versus the catch and runs where he has to elude 5 defenders and go for 60. So if I had to say that's the reason for him going over 1,200, I would make that argument. There's going to be less people to cover Terry, and he'll have opportunities against one-on-ones. And if he's one of those top 12 receivers, top 10 that a lot of the fan base believe that he is, then adding people to his team isn't going to hurt him. It's going to help him. So that's the argument I got for it. That's the argument.
That's fair.
I'm mad at that perspective.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go with the next one. Montez Sweat and Chase Young. They both combined for 16.5 sacks last season. I actually think I'm not even about to do the math and embarrass myself. This year they both had sack total odds set at 8.5. So that's 17 right there. Will they have a combined sack total for over or under 17? Where do you think the people voted, and what is your opinion?
I got them going over. I have them absolutely going over. I shared this. Carita mentioned earlier when we did a clubhouse for what was that preseason game 2. And, right, that was the game they were playing the Bengals, I think, and we were like, get them off the field because I was like, they're making us nervous. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is, but I know for Chase, for certain, Chase looks faster. I said, is it me, or does he look like he is faster, more agile? Yeah, it's scary. Like, they are scary good, and I think they're trying to sack the quarterback. Like, that's all. Oh, yeah, that's all they want all season long. So I got them going over.
Okay, all right. Where are you at, Carita?
I do agree that they're going over, and I think the people probably said over. I mean, Chase Young and Montez Sweat, they were just beasts. And then Montez Sweat, I believe, really found his swag last season. So I think this year he knows who he is, and he knows his role. And I think we're going to see them. I mean, even Chase Young, we saw how he came at all the quarterbacks. But Cam Newton, I just remember, Cam, he's a running quarterback. Cam couldn't even run. Cam couldn't even move out the pocket. Chase was there in 2.2 seconds. I definitely think they're going over. And I think they want to go over what they did last year. I just think from a competitive standpoint, they want to go over that number.
Where you at, Jay?
Jamal, I think you should have upped the over a bit on that because that they're going to smash that because neither one of them in their career yet has gone. Neither one of them has had double-digit sacks in their career yet. So you got to figure one of these guys, if not both of them, are going to get it this year for sure. I mean, this just where they're at in the career now as like I'm looking at the stats right now, but where they're at right now with their career, Chase has lost a lot of weight. I mean, he went more leaner than, he wasn't, not to say he was in bad shape last year, but he got more lean this offseason, which makes him look more agile, as one of the ladies was just saying. So you're going to see him take that ascension in his sophomore year. He already looks ready to step on the field. Montez, like I said, you got to figure, I feel like last year was a breakout year of some sorts for Montez, but I feel like this year, you'll really get to see the freak that Montez is. So, like I said, I think both of them will be getting double-digit sacks this year. I wouldn't be surprised.
All right. Well, all are right. The people chose the over. It is 96% on the over. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Yeah, I'm about to say the way this is looking, if I had to provide a counter argument, it would be terrible. I don't think I have. I don't think I have one.
I was waiting for you to have one.
I was sitting here thinking, I was like, what in the world would there be a reason for them not to get at least 9 apiece? Because like I feel like they're in the best position possible for, first off, to be on this type of defense and this type of coach defense, but secondly, they're in their prime as, actually they haven't even reached their prime as an athlete. Like you're talking about like 25, 26. I don't think they reached that yet. Chase Young is only 21 or 22. So I feel like they're in that position that they can keep growing and keep learning and developing their tools, their skill setting. 17 is low, but
it's scary for both of them how good they can get.
I agree.
Or will get.
I agree.
Right.
So no counter argument for me on this one. I'm gonna save face and move forward to Antonio Gibson. Okay. All right. So we have Antonio Gibson up next. Before we get to the fun one, Antonio Gibson going over or under 1,100 rushing yards. Last year he had where are the numbers? Oh, he only had 795. I thought it was a little bit more than that. But the odds makers set it at 1,100 rushing yards, so that's where I kept it. Do you all think he will go over or under on this one? And where do you all think the people sit? It's gonna be a little tricky with Antonio.
I know. I struggle with this one a little bit. 700 so yards last season. That was all.
Yeah, he had 795 rushing yards, and then he had 247 receiving. So we're talking about 1,000 yards from scrimmage.
I'm gonna go under. I think he'll get close, but I only say I struggle because I need to see like the steps he takes this season. I don't know if I got enough in preseason to really judge what we'll see from him this year. So I'm going to say under, but I think he'll come close.
Okay. All right, so we got the under with Carita. Right?
Yeah, I'm thinking under too. I don't have him. You said it was over. What's the 1,100?
Yes, ma'am. 1,100.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do that.
Okay.
That's a lot of running. I don't know. I mean, I don't. And let me be clear. I think it's because I'm still a little I'm a skeptic. Go ahead and say it about the run game. I like Antonio Gibson a lot, and I really, really like Jared Patterson a whole lot. But I don't think he'll be over 1,100 yards.
Rushing yards.
That's bad. Where you at, Dre?
I'm going with the under because I don't think that I mean, while like I said, we have to see what Scott Turner has in store, but I don't think Scott Turner is the type of coordinator that calls a lot for the run game for him to go over that much. I think Scott Turner is a pass-happy offensive coordinator, and I think that's going to skew into Antonio Gibson's rushing yards. Like last year, Gibson averaged about 56 yards a game. You have to think he'll be a little bit better than that this year, probably somewhere about 65 yards per game, I'm guessing. And even that wouldn't put him over 1,100 yards. So like I said, I'm going with the under specifically just because I don't think our offense calls for that type of stat line from the running back.
Okay. So first things first, if he was to have 1,100 yards in 2020, that would put him at 4th in the NFL last year. The top 10 had Melvin Gordon at 10th, and he had 986 rushing yards. The people voted, 76% voted that he will go over 1,100 rushing yards, and this is where I think the people got it wrong. I'm not gonna lie to you. 76% of you all think he'll go over 1,100, and I think based on what we saw from Scott Turner, and then based on just how the league goes in general, especially when you have an adequate quarterback who can kind of use his arm as a short passing game, quick 1-2 yard throws. It's hard to expect Antonio Gibson to go over 1,100 when 795, for example, what he did last year, and you're averaging over five yards a carry is just as effective when you're using 3 running backs. I don't see 1,100 yards, and I don't see him being top 5 in the NFL. So maybe when people voted, they probably thought this was like 2010 and Adrian Peterson and stuff like that when there's 1,000 running backs, but I don't know about this one.
I think that's a bit overzealous. I think Antonio Gibson's also still learning. I can't remember. It was in the preseason game against the Bengals. I don't remember the play exactly, but there was a run where every single one of us at Clubhouse, Candi, myself, everyone else that joined us, we were like, you know who would have got that run? Adrian Peterson. So it was like a run where he didn't get very far, but we were like, you know who could have got that? Adrian Peterson.
AP. I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about that. Last year, that kind of hurt me. Okay. All right, here we go. The fun one. Ryan Fitzpatrick, over or under? Will he throw over or under 14 interceptions? Ryan Fitzpatrick throws a lot of picks. We know that. So I felt like this was a good one to gauge where people are at and show where their optimism lies. And without spoiling anything, I'll just hand it over to you all. Over or under?
Dang, I wonder what the people said. These are okay. So if these are just Washington fans, they probably said under. If we had other people vote, they probably said over. I'm saying under because he better not throw 14 interceptions. He better not. So I'm saying under, and that's my explanation. He better not throw 14 interceptions, point blank, period. Or he needs to go sit on the bench.
Yeah, I'm hoping under. I wouldn't be surprised if the fans said over though, because I don't think most of the, maybe it's split a bit with the fan base because of, he is so aggressive, like you all were saying. He's very aggressive. He's not scared of throwing the ball down the field. And even if he gets picked off, guess what he's gonna do? He's gonna throw it back down the field.
Yep.
Like he's just gonna keep throwing because somebody down there is gonna catch it eventually. And so
Terry down there somewhere.
Yeah, somebody's down there somewhere. And so
that is true. That is true.
But I'm hoping for an under, please. Yeah, because anything over 10, I'm like, oh no.
I definitely think he's capable. I think he's capable of throwing 14 interceptions.
Absolutely.
But he better not do that.
Dre, where you at?
I'm gonna say over. If he's starting all 16 games, he's definitely going over. I mean, done that. That's what he's done in his whole career. Every time he started 16 games, he's thrown over 14 picks. I mean, that's not to say he can't have success here, but I mean, as far as interceptions go, that's what he does. I mean, it's not one of those things where you're looking at a younger quarterback saying, okay, well, this guy's going to learn to get better. Ryan Fitzpatrick is 38, 39. He is what he is by now. So if he's starting all 16 games, I'm going over.
Okay. All right. So the people voted 55%. This was the most even level or most mid as possible, but 55% had the under. So you kind of know where they're at. They said they expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to be looking like Tom Brady out there, 10 picks, 30 touchdowns, something like that. That's how I'm imagining it. If you're going under 14,
they're probably be.
Yeah.
Because if they're, they don't want him to throw over 14 interceptions.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie to you though. I feel like now Dre has an excellent point. The more he plays, the more turnover prone he becomes. I do find it hard to in an offense that requires you to be like in and out type thing. And knowing where you need to go with the football and his veteran experience, I find it hard to believe that he can throw, I would say, over 14. I can imagine double-digit interceptions. I can imagine somewhere between 10 and 14, but I don't even know why 14 is the threshold for me. But I can see double-digit, but I feel like 14 is that high number where it's like, all right, bro, you're getting into Jameis Winston territory. Got to be careful, even though you throw a lot too.
That's almost an interception a game.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
it's 17 games this year too, and which kind of makes things even a little bit more nerve-wracking in that regard. So hopefully they're not the ones where you kind of flip field position and kind of directly impacts the game. So we'll see. All right. So we have one. This is the last one. Okay, cool. So we got one more, and then we're gonna go into the season prediction for Washington and how you all think they'll do. So this one is gonna deal with the defensive side. Team defense. Washington's defense had 47 total sacks last season, which was 6th in the NFL last year. 17 game season this year. So obviously you have that one extra game. We just talked about Chase Young. We just talked about Montez Sweat. The question is, will Washington's defense have over or under 52 sacks this season? Now, I don't know why I put 52 per se, but I am a gambling man, so I know these numbers are kind of in there to make you think about it a little bit. So 52 sacks is the number now. From 47 to 52, it's 5 more with 1 extra game. Where do you all think that's at?
I'm going to go with the over. Because I also wanted to mention with Montez Sweat and Chase Young, right? We also had the return of Matt Ioannidis, whom I think they were missing. As strong as they were last year, I still think he was a missing piece once he got hurt last year in the Cleveland game. And I also want to mention the return of Landon Collins, because Landon Collins has been impressive all throughout camp, and he was definitely impressive the short periods of time he played in the preseason game. He's looking like he was never injured. So
yes, absolutely.
I'm going to go with the over. I'm being optimistic, but I am going with the over.
I'm going to take a different take this time. I'm going to say under. So as you mentioned, Matt Ioannidis may offset this, but I remember Ryan Kerrigan having a hand in some of those sacks last year, and he's no longer there. So I do think we'll see that impact. So that's why I'm going to go under.
Okay. Dre, where you at?
I'm going to go with the over, and simply because I think the defense will be even more aggressive. They will get the chance to be more aggressive this year. Last year, I think they were hindered a lot by safety play. You started Troy Apke early in the year at single high safety, and that guy, you couldn't call certain, you couldn't run certain defenses with him playing the way he was back then because you weren't confident on the back end. But now that you bring in McCain and also Landon Collins, he's back healthy now. Now in the defense, Jack Del Rio could be as aggressive as he wants to be this year, and I think he's going to dial up more blitzes. So I don't think the sacks are just going to come from the defensive ends and the defensive tackles. I think your linebackers are going to get involved in the sacks, and I think the safeties and probably even some of the cornerbacks are going to get in on the sack party because they're going to be calling blitzes from everywhere.
Okay. So, if you all thought that Washington football fans weren't going to be optimistic with this one, you are wrong. The team, everybody, they chose over. Everybody by 80%, they said that they will go over 52 sacks this season. I understand where everybody's coming from with this one, so I don't have anything to add outside of I guess I'll just back what Dre was saying. I think that addition with Landon Collins, but also understanding that you have a little bit more versatility, especially with things that you could do with Kendall Fuller, moving him into the slot. And he's been a good blitzer, but he's also very aware at the line of scrimmage, like in his play recognition and things like that. So however they want to use him and however they want to utilize his ability to make plays at the line of scrimmage can kind of offset or even contribute to how they use Landon and vice versa, all these other things. So I'll just leave it at that. And we can go ahead and keep it pushing. So 80%, 52 sacks or more.
I just don't want the fans to come for me. I had to make the conversation interesting. We couldn't all agree on everything, okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to tell anybody in the comments that it was all you. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to say that.
Carita, I think you made a great point, though, because, look, there's enough film out there now. People gonna be ready for this monster. I mean, athleticism is what it is. So if they just get outplayed, then they just outplayed. But I think folks might dial it up a bit because Washington's defense is tight, and I think everybody knows it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Either way, I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch.
So let's go ahead and close it out with these last two, and then obviously, first and foremost, we do appreciate y'all time for hanging out with us on the Trapper Dive podcast, and close out with these last two. So, the NFC East. Do you all think that the Washington will repeat as NFC East champions? That's the first question, and then the second part to that question is, how do you all see them finishing out the year? Is it record-wise? Do you all think they're capable? I wouldn't even say capable. What do you think their records are going to be? I'm going to just leave it at that open-ended question. Do they repeat? And then what is their record for you all?
I think they have a good chance of repeating. However, I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive this season. We have to see what Jalen Hurts does with the Eagles, but we know he's got the talent. Like you mentioned earlier, Dak Prescott, depending on the injury, if he's healthy and if Dallas can put it all together this year, you know, they are also going to be competitive. So, but I think Washington does have a chance to repeat. I do think it's going to be more competitive though. I wrote an article with my season prediction, so I need to be consistent with my prediction. And I went with a 10-7 record that is very contingent on finding balance. We can't have Ryan Fitzpatrick just throwing down the field to anybody and throwing 14 interceptions or anything of that nature.
Right.
So as long as they find more balance on the offense and he can manage the game as he's expected to do, I think the defense will, like we've all talked about, I think they're going to be dogs this year like they were last year, but even more so this year. That's what I went with, 10-7. And Dustin Hopkins, as long as he don't miss any key kicks, will be good.
Good luck with that one.
Ooh, that's good. So funny enough, when Carita and I, and you all know Lake Lewis from Sports Journey, when I was on his show, I also said like a 10-7. I was like, they can win. And I actually upped it. I was like, I got this team winning like 11 or 12 games. All right, let's say 11, right? So I was more like 11-6. But to Carita's point, what we were talking about earlier, it's always the NFC least jokes. I don't think that's what we're dealing with here. And I think one of the key position groups that we have to look at is exactly what you're all just talking about. It's the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about a Dak Prescott, right? Jalen Hurts. Okay. I know New York has Daniel Jones.
Yep.
And then there's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Right. But the Giants have been an Achilles heel for the Washington football team. It's not the Cowboys, it's the Giants. Because even last year, while the Washington football team may have swept the Cowboys, the Giants, without Saquon Barkley, this is all I keep thinking. I was like, they did not have Saquon Barkley. And the team still lost to the Giants. And I don't think it's going to be that easy. And if you look at the schedule, Washington football, all of those key division games are in December. I promise. I know the NFL did that on purpose. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was very crazy.
Mm-hmm. Like, what in the world? So, barring injuries, because you never want to see anyone get hurt, and these teams are playing at full capacity into December. Yes, I think Washington can repeat. But will they? It's going to be tough with a healthy Dak, Jalen Hurts, and a healthy Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. That's funny that you said that, because my NFC East preview, that was the title, A Question of Quarterbacks, because I feel like that is really going to be what is the deciding factor in this division.
Yep.
So one quick thing, Candi, you said like around 11 for Washington. What do you think it'll take to win the NFC East this year? Because I agree with the sentiment that the NFC East it's not the NFC East this year. Like, everybody's coming back. This was a year where everybody was just hurt. And a lot of people just really didn't take that into account because of the reputation or the famous usage of the NFC East, the least thing, whatever it is. But I feel like everybody's coming back and you'll have a lot more competition. I don't even think Philly's going to be as bad as people expect them to be. I don't think they're going to be great or anything, but I can see them competing at least on a consistent basis and have a couple games going as toss-ups. So you're thinking it'll take at least 11 to win the NFC East?
I think so. If everyone stays healthy, Dak has something to prove. Everybody in this division has something to prove, including the coaches, right? Because
even Daniel Jones, he has to prove that he's for real and that he can take another step this season.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the team, Washington football, is going to have to absolutely beat the teams they're supposed to. And they cannot get swept by the Giants, like, for anybody.
No.
And Dustin Hopkins has to make all his field goals.
That's gonna be the title of this episode. That's not how to make you feel those. make them
key takeaway from all of this whole show.
Oh, that's lovely. Hey, well, I do appreciate you all joining us. It's been excellent. You stuck with us throughout the whole show and gave your predictions. And before we get up out of here, I do want to give you that opportunity to plug in everything that you got going on. Plug talk. Let the people know where they can find you, read you, hear from you. I know you all got the W podcast. I want to say that for last so they can let those voices be heard from you all, and y'all got a good thing going on over there. So let the people know what you got going on.
Okay, well, gearing up for Washington football season. As you know, starting Sunday, you can find my Washington football work on 3pointconversion.com. You can follow me also on social media at Carita C. Parks. I like to say that's my hub for everything I do, so you can find all of my articles on there. Also, make sure you follow my sports media platform at Double Take Sports. It's at DBL Take Sports on social media, but it's called Double Take Sports. So make sure you're following that. Like you said, we got the W Pod, so follow us at the W Pod on social media. And yeah, that's it for me. Washington football all the way for the next couple weeks.
And you can find me on CWall Sports and Entertainment on Facebook, on Twitter as well. It's at CWall Sports, as well as on Instagram. I do a weekly show via Facebook Live. It's called Culture from the Couch, the DC Sports edition, giving the weekly rundown of all the local teams and what's going on. So there'll be a lot to cover here soon. And like Carita said, we are 2 out of the 4 co-hosts on the W podcast. So make sure you're following us there as well.
Absolutely. Again, ladies, thank you for joining us. Wish you all the best this season. I don't think this will be the last time that I reach out to you all to chop it up, talk some Washington football. But in the meantime, handle your business. I'll be following, of course. And then I guess next time, Lake. Well, I do plan on going up to Lake thing, so a couple times out the year. So if I see y'all up there, obviously we'll chop it up and catch up with each other then too as well. So I appreciate y'all for joining us for sure, and y'all have a good night.
You too. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right, and there we go. So that was Carita and Candi. Everybody, they're good peoples. I've been following. Well, I've just got back in contact with Candi, but I've known her for a couple of years. I've met her at the Washington football events, draft night, 2019 when they drafted Dwayne Haskins. And Montez Sweat that night, and then later on in training camp that year too. So we got a decent rapport. And obviously COVID hit, so I haven't really seen anybody in a minute. And then obviously I've been around Carita for some time now on Twitter, and they're all good peoples, and there's some women in sports that you definitely need to pay attention to, and all that good stuff. So with that being said, tomorrow we are previewing Dallas and Tampa Bay. David Harrison is coming on. He is part of the Locked On Tampa or Locked On Bucks podcast. He's also a co-host for Locked On Washington. He has a lot of things going on, so we're gonna talk to him about that. Previewing Washington with him. Previewing the Tampa Bay and Dallas game for the Thursday night opener. So I'll be back tomorrow with that. And then Thursday we have the Chargers and Washington football preview. So with that being said, appreciate everybody for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, you know the vibes, man. 1 star. That's no bueno. So see y'all Wednesday, 7:00. Peace.
Whole hard in the trenches, ask a nigga what he benching, triple digits, nigga, don't forget to mention. Whole hard in the